Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going deep into something that's probably on your mind. If you're thinking about a future in medicine, yeah, the MCAT exam. We're going straight to the source for this deep dive, using the AAMC's official guide. But here's the twist. We're not just going to list topics, we're going to uncover the WHY behind the MCAT. What does its design tell us about what it takes to succeed in medical school? And maybe even what makes a great doctor?
It's fascinating, really. The MCAT isn't just about knowing scientific facts. It's designed to evaluate your scientific inquiry and reasoning skills. Like they're trying to see if you can think like a scientist, not just how much you've memorized.
That's such a good point. It makes you wonder, what does thinking like a scientist actually look like in a medical setting? I'm really curious to see how the guide breaks this down.
Well, they've identified 4 key skills: knowledge, problem solving, research design, and data reasoning. And each of these goes way deeper than just recalling facts from textbooks.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So it's not just about knowing the Krebs cycle backward and forwards. You actually have to USC that knowledge in different ways.
Exactly. And here's what's interesting. The AAMC worked directly with medical school leaders to design the MCAT, to reflect the skills they believe tomorrow's doctors will really need. So it's almost like a sneak peek into the minds of medical educators.
So it's not just about acing the exam. It's about understanding the qualities and skills they're looking for in future doctors. That's a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like the MCAT is saying, this is what we believe makes a good doctor. These are the ways you need to be able to think.
Wow, okay. I'm already starting to see the MCAT in a whole new light. Before we dive into those 4 skills, let's do a quick overview of the MCAT structure. How many sections are there again?
4 sections. We have biological and biochemical foundations of living systems, chemical and physical foundations of biological systems, psychological, social, and biological foundations of behavior. And finally, critical analysis and reasoning skills, which everyone just calls CARS.
All right, so 4 sections, each tapping into different aspects of scientific thinking. Now that we understand the skills being tested, let's explore how those skills are actually assessed across those 4 different sections of the MSAT. What kind of questions are we talking about here? Give me an example.
Let's start with the first skill, knowledge. It might sound straightforward, but it's not just about rote memorization. It's about understanding the relationships between concepts. For example, they might give you a scenario about a baby. Who gets really excited when they taste orange juice for the first time? But after a few sips, they lose interest.
Okay, I can see where this is going. It's not about knowing the chemical composition of orange juice, right?
Exactly. It's about understanding the underlying concept of habituation, how it works, and how it applies to this scenario. That's what the MCAT is getting at with this knowledge skill.
So it's like taking a basic concept and being able to recognize it in a real-world scenario, even if it's not explicitly spelled out for you.
Precisely. And that kind of thinking is crucial in medicine. Imagine you're a doctor seeing a patient, and they aren't responding to a medication as well as they used to.
Yeah.
Could this be related to habituation? This is the kind of connection the MCAT wants you to be able to make.
Wow, okay. That's a really good example. It makes it so much clearer how these skills actually translate to being a doctor. So we've got knowledge. What's next?
The next skill is problem solving. This is where you have to apply those scientific principles to solve problems. You might need to judge the validity of different explanations, make predictions based on scientific theories, or even draw conclusions from models.
So it's not just about knowing the facts. It's about being able to use them to solve puzzles and make sense of complex situations.
Right. It's about being able to think critically and apply your knowledge to new challenges. They might even give you a question about cultural capital and ask which statement accurately predicts what would happen based on that concept.
Wait, cultural capital? That's more of a sociology concept, isn't it? I'm surprised to see that on the MCAT.
And that's what's so interesting about the MCAT. It's not just about hard science. It's about recognizing that human behavior and social factors play a huge role in health and well-being.
Okay, I'm seeing a theme here. The MCAT really wants you to think broadly and make connections between different fields of knowledge. It's not just about memorizing isolated facts. What's the 3rd skill?
The 3rd skill is research design. And this is where things get even more interesting. Here, they're testing your ability to understand how research is designed, identify variables, evaluate methods, and even spot flaws in logic.
So it's like being a scientific detective, right? Being able to analyze an experiment and figure out if it's well-designed and if the conclusions are valid.
Exactly. They want to see if you can think critically of the research process itself, not just accept the findings at face value. In a way, it's about understanding the limitations of science and being able to evaluate evidence carefully.
That's a really valuable skill, not just for a doctor, but for anyone navigating a world full of information and claims. You need to be able to sift through it all
Hmm.
and figure out what's credible and what's not.
I completely agree. And that's what makes the MCAT so relevant, even beyond the scope of medicine. It's about developing critical thinking skills that will serve you well in any field.
Okay, one more skill to go. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
The final skill is data reasoning. And I bet you can guess what this one is about.
Graphs and charts, bring it on.
You got it.
Yeah.
This skill is all about being able to interpret data from tables, graphs, figures, and draw meaningful conclusions from them. You need to understand things like statistical significance, uncertainty, and how to extract insights from raw data.
Okay, so it's like being a data storyteller, taking those numbers and figures and turning them into a narrative that makes sense and reveals something meaningful about the world.
That's a fantastic way to put it. Data is everywhere in medicine, from research articles to patient charts to public health trends. Being able to make sense of that data is crucial for making informed decisions.
And it's not just about memorizing formulas or crunching numbers, right? It's about understanding what the data actually means and how it relates to the bigger picture.
Exactly. And that's what the MCAT is trying to assess with this skill. They want to see if you can think critically about data, not just regurgitate statistical concepts.
Okay. I'm really starting to get a feel for what the MCAT is all about. It's not just about knowing a bunch of scientific facts. It's about being able to think critically, solve problems, design research, interpret data, and connect the dots between different fields of knowledge. It's like a mental workout for your brain, preparing you for the challenges of medical school and beyond.
It is. It's a challenging exam, but it's also incredibly rewarding because it forces you to develop those higher-level thinking skills that are so essential for being a good doctor.
Absolutely. And we've only just scratched the surface here. Now that we have a good grasp of these 4 key skills, let's dive into the 4 sections of the MCAT and explore how they're designed to assess these skills in specific ways.
So biological and biochemical foundations of living systems. It's all about understanding what makes living things tick.
Okay, I'm ready to tick. What kind of topics are we talking about here? I know it's a broad section.
Imagine a blend of biology, chemistry, and biochemistry. It covers everything from cell structure to how our bodies use energy, all viewed through the lens of those 4 scientific inquiry and reasoning skills we discussed.
So it's not just memorizing facts about cells and molecules. You have to apply those problem-solving, research design, and data reasoning skills within the context of biology and biochemistry.
Exactly. They might ask you to analyze an experiment about how enzymes work, or interpret data about the different stages of cellular respiration. It's about taking those fundamental concepts and applying them to real-world biological problems.
That makes sense. And I bet this section is relevant for a wide range of medical specialties.
Absolutely. No matter what field you're interested in, whether it's cardiology, oncology, or even something like dermatology. Understanding the foundations of biology and biochemistry is essential.
I hadn't even thought about dermatology. You're right. It all goes back to those basic building blocks of life.
It does. This section really lays the groundwork for understanding the complexities of human health and disease. Because you can't truly understand how something goes wrong without first understanding how it's supposed to work.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we've got the blueprints of life covered. What about the chemical and physical foundations of biological systems section? I'm guessing this one is a bit more, well, physics-y.
You guessed it. This section dives into the physical and chemical principles that govern biological processes.
Yeah.
Think thermodynamics, fluid dynamics, electrochemistry, all those fun things.
Ooh, fun.
Okay.
Seriously, why are these concepts so important for understanding how our bodies work?
Well, think about it. How do electrical impulses travel through our nervous system? How do our lungs take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide? How do medications dissolve and move through our bloodstream? All of these processes rely on the fundamental principles of physics and chemistry.
Wow, you're right. I never really thought about it that way. But it's all connected.
It is. This section really highlights how interdisciplinary medicine is. You can't just focus on one area of science. You need to understand how they all work together.
That's a good point. And it makes me think maybe the MCAT isn't just preparing you for medical school. Maybe it's preparing you for the reality of being a doctor, dealing with complex systems, and having to pull from different areas of knowledge to solve problems.
That's a very insightful observation, and I think it speaks to the importance of having a strong foundation in the basic sciences. It's not just about memorizing facts. It's about developing a way of thinking, a mental framework that allows you to approach any medical problem with a scientific lens
Okay, I'm totally on board with that. Now we've covered the two sections that are heavily focused on natural sciences. But there's a third section that seems a bit different. Psychological, social, and biological foundations of behavior. Why is psychology and sociology on a test for people who want to go to medical school?
This section really broadens the scope of the MCAT because it recognizes that health and illness are influenced by a complex interplay of biological, psychological, and social factors.
So it's acknowledging that humans are more than just a collection of cells and organs, right? We have thoughts, feelings, and we live within social structures that influence our health.
Exactly. Imagine you're a doctor treating a patient with a chronic illness, understanding their psychological state, their support system, their cultural beliefs. All of these things play a role in how they manage their condition and their overall well-being.
Wow, that's such an important point. It's like the MSAT is saying, hey, being a good doctor isn't just about knowing the science, it's about understanding people.
Precisely. This section emphasizes the biopsychosocial model of health, which recognizes that health and illness are not just biological phenomena, but are influenced by a combination of factors.
Okay, that's really interesting. I'm starting to see how all these different pieces fit together. The MSAT isn't just testing knowledge. It's assessing the kind of thinking that makes for a well-rounded physician, someone who can see the patient as a whole person, not just a case study.
I completely agree. And this section in particular highlights the importance of those social determinants of health, things like socioeconomic status, access to healthcare, education, and social support systems. All of these factors can have a profound impact on a person's health outcomes.
So it's not just about what happens inside the body. It's about understanding the context in which that body lives, right? The environment, the community, all of those external factors play a role.
Exactly. And that's what makes this section so important for future doctors. It's about developing a broader perspective on health and illness, and recognizing that effective treatment often requires addressing those social and psychological factors as well.
This is making me think about the importance of communication skills for doctors. You have to be able to talk to patients, understand their concerns, and factor those social and psychological elements into their care plan.
You're absolutely right. And that's something we'll touch on when we discuss the final section of the MCAT, Critical Analysis and Reasoning Skills, or CARS. Because that section is all about analyzing arguments, understanding perspectives, and communicating ideas effectively.
Okay, I'm ready for the CARS challenge. Bring it on. All right, the final section, the one that everyone seems to talk about with a mix of dread and fascination. CARS, Critical Analysis and Reasoning Skills. What's the deal with this section?
Well, the CARS section is interesting because it doesn't directly test your science knowledge. Instead, it focuses purely on your analytical and reasoning skills. Think of it as a test of how you think, not what you know.
So it's more about being able to dissect arguments, weigh evidence, understand complex ideas, skills that are definitely important for a doctor, but not necessarily specific to science.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be analyzing passages from a variety of humanities and social sciences disciplines, everything from philosophy to history to literary criticism. The content is diverse, but the focus is always on those core critical thinking skills.
Wait, hold on. Literary criticism. On the MCAT, I did not see that coming.
It can be surprising. But think about it. As a doctor, you're constantly reading research articles, evaluating evidence-based practices, and making decisions based on complex information. You need to be able to understand different perspectives, identify biases, and draw logical conclusions. These are skills that apply to any field, not just science.
That's a really good point. It's like the MCAT is saying, hey, being a good doctor isn't just about knowing the science. It's about being a well-rounded thinker who can analyze information from any source.
Exactly. And the CARS section is designed to push you to think critically and engage with complex ideas in a way that you might not have done before. It's like a mental workout for your analytical muscles.
Okay, I'm starting to see the value in it, even if it does sound a bit intimidating. But you mentioned something earlier that I want to circle back to. Communication skills. How does the CARS section relate to being a good communicator?
That's a great question. While the CARS section doesn't involve actually speaking or writing, it does assess your ability to understand and analyze written communication. And that's a crucial foundation for effective communication in any context.
So if you can break down a complex argument, identify the key points, and understand the author's perspective, you're more likely to be able to communicate clearly and effectively yourself.
Exactly. It's all about building those foundational skills of comprehension, analysis, and critical thinking, which are essential for clear and persuasive communication. Think about it. As a doctor, you'll be communicating with patients, colleagues, researchers, and you'll need to be able to explain complex medical concepts in a way that is clear, concise, and compassionate.
Wow, I'm really seeing how all the pieces of the MSAT fit together now. It's not just about rote memorization or even just about science. It's about developing a holistic set of skills that will make you a better thinker, a better communicator, and ultimately a better doctor.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that medicine is a multifaceted field that requires a wide range of skills and qualities.
And before we wrap up, I want to touch on something that's explicitly mentioned in the AAMC guide: the math requirements. They say general math skills are needed, but calculus is not required. And they also provide a periodic table during the exam.
That's right. It's helpful to know they're not trying to trick you with overly complex calculations. They want to see how you apply your scientific knowledge and reasoning skills, not how well you can crunch numbers.
It's like they're saying, focus on understanding the concepts, not memorizing obscure formulas.
Exactly. And having access to the periodic table is definitely helpful. Trying to recall the atomic weight of every element would be a nightmare. And it wouldn't really tell us much about your ability to think like a scientist.
Okay, that's incredibly reassuring. It takes some of the pressure off knowing that they're not expecting you to be a walking calculator or a periodic table encyclopedia. It's more about how you use the information you have, not just how much you can cram into your brain.
Precisely. It's about understanding, not just memorizing.
Oh, all right. We've covered a lot of ground today. But as always, I like to leave our listeners with a little something extra to ponder. We've talked a lot about how the MCAT is designed to reflect what makes a good doctor. But I'm curious, what other skills or qualities do you think are important for success in medicine? Things that might not be directly tested on the MCAT.
That's a great question. And there are so many possibilities. Empathy, for one. Being able to truly understand and connect with your patient's experiences is essential.
Absolutely. And what about resilience? Medicine is a challenging field, both intellectually and emotionally. Being able to bounce back from setbacks and keep going is crucial.
Absolutely. And I'd add adaptability to that list. The field of medicine is constantly evolving, with new research, technologies, and challenges emerging all the time. Being able to learn and adapt is crucial for staying on top of your game.
Such good points. And maybe a little bit of creativity wouldn't hurt either. Sometimes you need to think outside the box to come up with innovative solutions for your patients.
That's a great insight. The MCAT provides a fantastic foundation, but it's just the beginning of the journey. Being a good doctor is about so much more than just passing an exam.
Well said. It's about lifelong learning, personal growth, and a genuine desire to make a difference in the world.
Exactly. It's about combining scientific knowledge with human compassion and using those skills to help people live healthier, happier lives.
Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive into the MCAT. If you're considering a career in medicine, I highly encourage you to explore the AAMC's official guide for yourself. It's a valuable resource that can help you understand the challenges and the incredible rewards that await you on this path.
And remember, while the MCAT is a significant hurdle, it's also an opportunity to learn and grow and to start developing the skills that will make you a phenomenal physician.
Until next time, keep diving deep, keep those brains engaged, and never stop learning. Thanks for joining us.